Losing chickens to a predator attack is unfortunately a common occurrence on the homestead and farm and in backyards everywhere. In this video, I'm going to talk about the many ways that you can lessen the likelihood that your flock will become a victim of predation. And toward the end of this video, I'm going to talk about the individual coops that I use and highlight their strengths and their vulnerabilities. You can go on one end of the spectrum where you go completely free range, which gives you a lot more challenges as far as keeping them safe, or you can go to the other end of the spectrum and keep them completely cooped up 100% of the time, which gives you ultimate control. Here on our property, we run somewhat of a modified system where we have them out in the daytime in a chicken yard, which is 40 by 40 feet in size, and it allows them to get out every day and free range within this environment. And I think in doing that, it gives us somewhat the best of both worlds, where you get a bit of the free range, but you also have the ability to have their security provided for them in the evening. And if you're running your birds in a free range or modified free range type of an environment, that they have some ability to evade aerial predators by having some overhead canopy. You can either provide that by, if the enclosure is small enough, enclosing the entire thing with nets or tarps or something like that. Or in a space that's a little bit larger, it's nice if they have something where they can get underneath in the form of some kind of tree or something like that, which provides them the ability during the heat of the day when they're relaxing not to be completely exposed. In the wintertime, when these trees lose their leaves, there's a couple of things that I'll do. I'll make sure that their coops are left open so that they can go in there, and then I also bring in other structure so that when they're out in the yard, they'll be able to go underneath there to either relax or do dust bathing or whatever it is that they're going to do while they're out in this space. If you choose to run your birds out free range, it's best to select birds that are going to be genetically predisposed for predator evasion. Certain birds naturally are going to be a lot more alert and have the ability to evade an attack from both an aerial and ground-based predator. Birds like the Egyptian Phaomi, the Ancona, Leghorn is a good choice for that. And there's many, many other birds that you might select. Another really important way that you can lessen the impacts of a predator attack is to include a rooster in your flock. One of their primary jobs is flock protection, and a good rooster will stand guard while the hens are out foraging with their heads down, being on alert for any aerial or ground-based threats coming in, and will alert the hens to the presence of that threat, and if necessary, will defend the health of that flock with their life. The number one way that chickens are lost to predators every year is through a breach in Coop Security. 3 separate flocks living in 3 separate coops that daily they all converge to this same chicken yard. One of the very important reasons why we do that is so that if in fact we were to have a breach, we wouldn't lose the entirety of our flock and our egg production. I did a video illustrating some of the other reasons why we run our chickens in 3 separate flocks. I will link to that at the end of this video. Now, this first coop that I'll show you is a mobile chicken tractor / coop. It's built like a coop on the inside, but it also has wheels on it, and I run it on pasture in the spring and in the winter time. This roosting area up above is completely enclosed, and the hens are basically at that level, kind of out of sight, out of mind. This coop sits on an additional panel down here, so nothing is going to be able to come in from underneath. It's secure from anything digging its way in. And anywhere that there's areas where something could potentially come through, I've either put hardware cloth or chicken wire. All of these areas are completely enclosed. Doors are a real problem in an area that a lot of predators wind up getting in. Having a really strong latch is key and critical, and making sure that the door is not flimsy to the point where it can be pulled out is also very important. This particular door is extremely strong, and it's secured every night with this simple latch that if I was to be concerned about anything, it would be a raccoon being able to figure it out, but it's at a level where they're probably not going to be able to reach it anyhow. But it gets secured every night with a bungee, just simply up and over the top, providing a little bit more difficulty for anything that would be trying to get in. One true area of vulnerability, albeit it's very remote, is if in fact the chickens decided for whatever reason, at nighttime, they wanted to get down off of their roost and investigate what was going on outside their coop. Conceivably, a raccoon could stick their arm through and reach and grab a chicken and pull them through. I intend on addressing that and getting hardware cloth on this lower portion to completely eliminate that possibility. Skilled and determined predator is going to find a way to breach any perimeter fence by either digging underneath or climbing up and over the top. But what we can do is we can force them into one of those two options by selecting the appropriate size fence. Choosing fence that's appropriately sized can add another layer of security to your overall defense. And when coupled with tip number 6, can provide a pretty effective strategy. These are the 3 different size openings we have on our fence in this yard. We have 2x4 inch, there's some chain link, and there's some 4x4 inch. And it's a minimum of 5 feet tall, with most of it being about 6.5 feet tall. Next coop is a chicken tractor built out of cattle panel. On the ends of this, I wound up doing hardware cloth, which is more than adequate, but I decided to go with chicken wire up and over the top. If I had to do this over, this is one of the things that I would absolutely change. Instead of using this cattle panel that's the larger opening, I would have utilized the 4x4 inch like I have on the floor up and over the top. And what that would have done was provided me more security up and over this and at these seams, because conceivably a raccoon could come here and rip this chicken wire off. That's been known to happen before. So that's an area of vulnerability on this particular coop. Nothing's going to be coming underneath as this sits on 4x4 inch cattle panel all the way in. I've latched it both top and bottom, and then I wind up putting a carabiner in this right here, because raccoons are super smart and I don't want them to figure out how they can open that. So this is just secured with a carabiner, and this is not going to be pulled open by any predator. Nocturnal predators like to carry out all their nefarious activities in the shadows of the dark. A very effective way of pushing them back and deterring that activity is through the use of motion detection devices. You can use either sprinklers or lighting, or a combination of the two, to be a very, very effective way of sending a message to predators to stay out of the area. This last coop is probably my most secure, and it's made out of dimensional lumber. It is completely enclosed with plywood and 2x4, and any of the areas open for ventilation are covered with hardware cloth. The latch is very secure. Door is secure. I use a carabiner just on that every night, just to eliminate that from being jimmied open somehow. This entire floor is covered in hardware cloth, which is directly attached to pressure treated mud sill. This coop was a pretty good score. I got it for $450 off Craigslist. Chickens are most susceptible at night when they're on their roost and they're disoriented, just as we're on our roost and disoriented. The nocturnal predators that like to eat chicken are out and about, and it's our responsibility as the keeper of the chicken to make sure we've done the most that we can to provide for their ultimate safety. I still have a little bit of work to do on 2 of these coops, and once I do that, I'll have a high degree of certainty that I won't be dealing with any losses from any type of predation. If you have some suggestions on things that you've done to protect your flock, leave a comment. I'd love to hear about it. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.